Establishment Republicans have always ignored the grassroots while patronizing them with empty rhetorics worthy of fertilizing the lawn simply because the grassroots has laid down and taken it. But that's all changed since party leaders from the very top all the way down to the precinct level have girded their loins and prepared for battle. It's time for some straight talk, Texas. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is the Bunker Bob Show. Greetings, thrill seekers, music lovers, conversationalists from across the fruited plains of the great state of Texas. I am your host, Bunker Bob Steinhagen, bringing you an hour of unfiltered, unadulterated, and unapologetic conservatism to help make Texas and America great again. And I'm grateful to have you watching today on the Bunker Cam via Rumble, YouTube, or Facebook, and welcome my podcast listeners who are out walking, driving in their cars, or wherever they're listening via Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, or Podcast Addict. Now, I know you're wondering, so where have you been? Well, the very simple answer for that is two things. One, I did something I said I would never do again. And that was I ran for city council in my little city and I lost. And that's a good thing. I'm going to tell you that's a good thing for me. It's a good thing for my family for sure, but it's an even better thing for this show because now I can focus on this show and Texas. I've also had some work with clients because I still have a paying job that I do. This show is basically for free. I don't get any money for it. I don't have any sponsors, and I don't put commercials on this show. As you notice, it's free. This is something that I love to do, and so I had a couple of clients. I work with Christian ministry organizations, helping them to raise large dollars from high capacity individuals, bottom line. And I had an international client that took me out of the country quite often. I'll put it that way. And it's been quite a summer. So unfortunately, I missed most of the legislative session, but doesn't mean that we can't catch up, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to ferret through all of the stuff that has occurred. But it does mean that I am going to be going back to my daily program, and so this is the new season. We'll just call this the fall season of the Bunker Bob Show. And I wanted to start out from as a proud Republican. I'm a conservative, and I've said this before. It always bothers me when people say, "Well, I'm not a Republican, I'm a conservative." Well, if you're a conservative, well, what does that mean? I defy anyone to look at the Republican Party platform of the great state of Texas and tell me, what does that mean? Is there something in the Republican Party of Texas platform that is not conservative? I would argue that that's just not the case. It is one of the most conservative. Well, it is. It's the most conservative platform in the nation, and I am a proud Texas Republican. And I'm even more proud of what has been happening and transpiring lately. But as you know, if you're anything like me, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of Republicans acting like Democrats. And that's where we find ourselves again. But something has changed. A lot has changed, actually. Very significant things have changed. And I think I kind of want to highlight the culmination of this change to something that happened this last weekend. But before I do, I want to kind of punctuate everything. I want to kind of begin in a place. I want to begin going back to September 10th of 1813. That's right, September 10th, 1813. After defeating the British fleet in the Battle of Lake Erie, Oliver Hazard Perry, commander of the American fleet, dispatched one of the most famous messages in military history to Major General William Henry Harrison. It read, "Dear General, we have met the enemy and they are ours. 2 ships, 2 brigs, 1 schooner, and 1 sloop. Yours with great respect and esteem, H. Perry. We have met the enemy and they are ours." Now, I'm sure that you have very likely heard that term, that we have seen the enemy and he is us, or we, more literally, we have met the enemy and they are ours. The environmentalist wackos have taken this for their own, but it is not from some cartoon, political cartoon, as if you look this up, if you go to Google, if you go to Yahoo, if you go to any of the search engines, what they are going to show you is a political satirist who basically is advocating for the environmental issue wackos, and they're as though that's where this came from. It's not. I just gave you the reference to where this comes from. And folks, as a member, as someone who has been a delegate to every state convention since turning 18, I can tell you that I have seen many iterations of party leadership, some good, some bad. And I have spent an inordinate amount of time helping to get great leadership in our party. Kathy Adams, David Barton, Susan Weddington are just a few of those that I helped get elected, and they are conservatives by all means. I mean, they are the true conservatives for our party, and that's what I wanted to see is true conservatives leading our party. Now, there's 2 things about their leadership that is different than what we're seeing today, and I was a fan of Alan West. I thought that what he brought to the party was national exposure, and I liked Colonel West very much as our chair. I was reticent with Matt Rinaldi, but I will tell you this, and I've been preparing for this show for several weeks because I've been going through different things that have been going on in the legislature, and I have been going back and forth on whether or not I should say what I'm about to say. And what I'm really interested in is those of you who have been long-term party activists, who have been delegates at state conventions like I have many times, who have served on platform committee or rules committee or other committees, who have done what you've seen all of the iterations of leadership. And I'd like to get your take on it, because I'm about to say something that I never thought I would say about Matt Rinaldi, but I'm going to say it without equivocation, because it is in my belief that Matt Rinaldi is probably the greatest leader our party has ever had. And it is not I say that with all respect to previous leaders. I am not trying to diminish the impact that they have had or the work that they put in, but it is impossible for anyone in the grassroots to deny that Matt Rinaldi is the real deal. He is a man who has taken on the enemy. He's been willing to cross the line and say, hey, if you call yourself a Republican, well, then act like it. He has no problem holding up the Republican Party platform and saying, this is what it means to be a Republican. Why are you not standing up for these values? And this has never happened before. And when I say it's never happened before, I mean it's just never happened before. We have this and I'm going to be referencing the young Republicans, but there's the Republican principles. You'll hear people use that, the party principles. Some people will reference this as though it's some kind of thing that Ronald Reagan once said. You never speak ill will of a fellow Republican. But that's not a Republican principle. And Ronald Reagan did speak not ill will. He spoke negatively and affirmatively toward more conservative Republicans versus more liberal Republicans. And I got to tell you, it angered people to no end when he did that, because he was breaking the fourth commandment or the 11th commandment. Sorry. That some people claim that this is it's a Republican principle that you don't speak ill, or you don't go against those inside the party. Well, Matt Rinaldi is the real deal. It is, Matt Rinaldi is not a native of Texas. Neither is Alan West. So Matt Rinaldi is not a native of Texas, and it really kind of the first question that some will ask is, well, is someone who's not a native of Texas, can they really serve Texas? And I say, yes, absolutely. I don't care if they come from California. There are many Californians who are sick and tired of what's happened in California. The thing that I hate about some Californians is when they don't say, hey, I'm from California and I'm in Texas, and here's why. We have a great candidate running for state representative, Dennis London, who is from California. And his stump speech is all about how we don't want to California our Texas. And I would argue that Dennis London is more Texan than many Texans, native Texans that I have met. But that's the fact. The fact is, we have this idea that we've got to be true to our state and not to our principles, because, folks, those are two different things. Now, I want to speak specifically about what happened with this last weekend. The Texas Young Republicans, when they met here in Dallas, voted to officially revoke its partner status with the RPT. And they cited problems with Chairman Matt Rinaldi as their reason for leaving. The group cites numerous problems, including what they characterize as smear campaigns by Chairman Rinaldi against Hayden Padgett, the former Texas Young Republican Federation chair, and now the newly elected National Young Republican chair. The Texas Young Republican Federation alleges this includes public endorsements against Padgett, specifically the candidates that were endorsed by the Texas Young Republicans. Here's the thing. Texas Young Republicans, Rinaldi supported a girl or a woman who was from Virginia, and I believe that she was the chair of the Virginia Young Republicans. And the Texas Young Republicans chose Padgett. He's a Texan, so we're going to support a Texan. And so that is the first question that I have for you, and I think this is a real question that is, it's not rhetorical, but ask yourself this: Am I going to be faithful to the state of Texas, or am I going to be faithful to my principles? Which is more important? Which comes first, my principles or the state? And you've got to understand, I am a native Texan. My father and mother, native Texans. My grandfather is a native Texan. My grandmother is a native Texan. My lineage is all about Texas. And so I love this great state. But am I going to follow someone just because they're from Texas? No, I'm not. But I'm not just going to run to someone who is from Virginia, from the North. I'm just not going to run to someone like that. There would have to be a reason to do it. So certainly, if I had my choice between a Texan and a Virginian, I'd go for the Texan. However, if there are other things at play, like principle, then and you had a Texan who is not upholding the party platform of Texas, and a Virginian who mirrors the Republican Party of Texas platform, well, then the answer is real simple. I would support that Virginian. That's what Rinaldi did. But what that is to the young Republicans, that's them's fighting words, I should say. And they're saying that it is well documented that Matt Rinaldi has engaged in misinformation campaigns. Now, here's the great thing about this claim is they make no specifics as to what misinformation Mr. Rinaldi has produced as part of this. But it is interesting. I mean, if you go back and look at this, I mean, read this again. It's that last sentence. The attempts to tarnish Mr. Padgett's reputation included public endorsements against him, the Virginian, using the RPT platform, as well as documented misinformation campaigns. Wait just a second. Wait, they kind of boxed something in there. Do you see what's in the center of that? Using the RPT's platform. They also cite the use of the RPT platform to campaign against Padgett. Now, how could he do this? How could Chairman Rinaldi use the party platform against Padgett if Padgett is in lockstep with the party platform? I ask, isn't that the role of our party chair, to uphold that platform, to recognize that this is what the grassroots stands for, this is what the grassroots believes, and we're going to uphold that? Isn't that what the chairman should be focusing on? I would think so. But the only way would be to highlight facts, not misinformation, that Padgett's political views contradict the party platform, which is exactly what Rinaldi is concerned about. That Padgett, and I'm sure Mr. Padgett's a great guy. Look, I am a big believer in Milton Friedman's idea that we should not trade the good for the perfect. So is this what's happening here? Are we trading the good in an attempt to replace it with the perfect? And I don't think so here, because what concerns Rinaldi is some fundamental issues. But before that, now the statement also claims that Rinaldi engaged in what they described as documented misinformation campaigns. But as I said, there's no empirical evidence to substantiate that claim, which to me then leads me to believe that there is no misinformation campaign. That would be an important thing. Now, Current Revolt is a news source that I use along with the Texas Scorecard and the Texan to get information and to help. And they posted well, actually, all of them have reported on this. And I've gotten some information from all three sources for this. This, I think, was from Current Revolt, and they highlighted something that was posted by that was supposed to be posted by Matt Rinaldi. And so basically Matt is saying, send me like the 2 or 3 things that are the best dirt you have on Hayden, like the BLM video. I have a lot of angry young Republicans today. Now, I'm sure that you're wondering, well, what are we talking about with the BLM video? Well, this is what Hayden posted. Now, this is in 2020. Following the death of George Floyd. And you judge for yourself. Is this a reflection of the Republican Party platform? Is this a reflection of conservatism as you know it?
Black Lives Matter. Republicans, myself included, have hesitated to say the phrase. Republicans fear the phrase, but we should not. The history of our party is long, messy, and complex. Times have changed, and Republican policies change with them. The murder of George Floyd tore open a vein of outrage that had only just begun to heal. Hundreds of thousands, even millions, have marched in protest demanding justice, an end to police brutality, and real evidence that Black Lives Matter. Why do we keep seeing black men killed? Why are so many black men in prison? Why is it so hard for black people to get a good job and a good education? Black lives matter. And Republicans have been saying it for 166 years.
So that is Hayden Paget, and does that reflect the values of conservatism? Because here is what I think happened, and here's the thing. This is in the midst of the firestorm around George Floyd. I don't know of any. In fact, I can't count, and I'm sure there are. So don't get me wrong, but the voices that I listen to, the Daily Wire, for instance, Fox News, Mark Levin, The Blaze, there's Candace Owens. There is none of those people said anything about what happened to George Floyd as though it was okay. This outraged everyone. But the issue of Black Lives Matter, the conservative point of view is that all lives matter. That is a conservative point of view. And some believe that that's tone deaf, but as a conservative, that's not. Because Jesus Christ died for all. That's why all lives matter to Christ, which means that all lives matter to conservatives, to me, regardless of color. I dream of a day when a man will be judged not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Those were the words of Martin Luther King, which no one in Black Lives Matter movement believes in. They hate Martin Luther King. They despise Martin Luther King. I don't judge them by their words, which arguably people can say, well, Republicans are the same. Hate black, really? Well, then show us. Where do you want to begin? Where do you want to begin? I mean, there's so many. Okay, give us some examples give us examples of systemic racism in America today. Well, I take that back. You could find it up until just recently, a few weeks ago, when the Supreme Court said that it is that affirmative action for college admission is racism and is unconstitutional. So it was, but it wasn't against blacks. It was systemic racism to allow blacks, people of color, to get and if you're Asian, basically discriminated especially against Asians. that was the racism that we saw and have seen in America. But why are more blacks in prison? Why are more blacks killed each year? Gosh, I think, and see, this Hayden Paget doesn't even think about the fact that of answering his own question. The breakdown of the family is where you can begin that, and I think you can go beyond that even, and the nature of America today, the become feckless. It has become useless. It has become irrelevant. Church in America today is irrelevant. Irrelevant. And that's what we see today. And that's why we want to know why we have the problems of racism today. It's because the church, number one, is feckless. And number two, especially in certain communities, Obama's Reverend Wright, Obama's Americans are coming home to roost. The Black Liberation Movement. These are the acme of that. That's where you see racism today. Mr. Paget doesn't seem to, he's going to say, kind of getting in the pressure of what was happening with George Floyd, and he was trying to demonstrate that Republicans have a heart. And the fact is, Republicans are the only ones who have ever demonstrated that they have a heart. Democrats don't do it. Sure. Democrats like for support. They don't want them to be independent. They don't want them to work. They don't want them to be able to do and make decisions on their own. No. They've got to. And as Joe Biden said, if you ain't you ain't black. That's the plantation owner is you, and you've got. Let me see. Oh, wait a minute. What color are they? Oh, they're white. That's right. So the heads of your party, folks, are white. and Democrats try to make it seem as though they care more about discrimination and try to bring equality. It's all a ruse. And this is what's frustrating when people like Matt Rinaldi, a man at the forefront of helping to try and restore pride in the party, this kind of comment by leaders is what's killing is what's killing our efforts. We need to stop apologizing to apologize for, not as a party. Our party has been on the issue time and again. The right. Now, had Hayden Paget repudiated what he said, had he said, you know what, I was mixed up, I was wrong, I was speaking when I was speaking out of my heart, not out of my head. We can forgive those types of things. When people say things, I mean, goodness gracious, how many times have any of us said things that we regret, that we would like to take back? All of us have done that. So why wouldn't and if Mr. Paget had guaranteed Matt Rinaldi from Texas, but the problem is we're in danger as a party. We've got to be careful about saying we only want to focus on people on what Texans believe, because there's some stupid Texans. I got to tell you, there's some stupid people in Texas right now who are doing some stupid things. Matt is absolutely my favorite guy right now. And I also want to, one of the things that Matt Rinaldi did was this was a letter that he sent out to those members of the Texas Young Republicans, endorsing this young lady. And he says, "It is with this in mind that I ask you to support Jesse Blakely. Jesse is both a strong conservative and a battle-tested leader whose efforts were critical in Virginia's recent Republican wins." Now that's really important. Now, the group cites numerous problems, including smear campaigns, right? By Chairman Rinaldi. Chairman Rinaldi's participation in the Young Republican National Convention. This is the Young Republicans. This is not Rinaldi's letter. I just showed you that. I'm going back to the statement made by Young Republicans. I just realized they look alike. So just to be clear, this is the continuation of the statement about how they're trying to they're breaking away from the Republican Party. But Chairman Rinaldi's participation in the Young Republican National Convention also came into question. He notably favored events opposing the Texas-endorsed candidate and neglected those sponsored by the Texas delegations. These actions, combined with his choice to endorse a candidate with beliefs contrary to the principles of the Texas Republican Party. Remember, folks, what I said about the principles of the party. The principles of the party. Principles are a very innocuous word. It's just this, it's the idea that there is principles in the ether, that by the sheer fact that you're a Republican, you should understand what those principles are. And you, as the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, you should be endorsing the Texas candidate. That's a principle. But it's not. There's no Republican principle. And that's what's funny. And that's what really angers me about this, about what these young Republicans are doing, is that they're creating things out of whole cloth that don't exist. These principles. It's a lot like what Democrats do. They just go, well, everyone knows. Everyone knows that blacks are oppressed, that there's systemic racism. It's just, we just know these things. That's a principle. That's what Democrats do. Are you starting to see the problem with Texas Young Republicans? Now, just full disclosure, I'm not part of any group. I'm not a fraternal type of guy. I've never been a part of a fraternity. I'm a Texas Aggie, for goodness sake, right? I've never understood when I was my focus was the 12th Man Foundation, Student Foundation, when I was there, and I didn't understand and I didn't enjoy all the fraternity. We had some fraternities and sororities at the school, and everybody there's a bunch of shirts that people wear still today that say that read "Rent a friend, join a frat." Because if you're an Aggie, you're an Aggie. So I'm not into all of these fraternity type things. Doesn't mean that they're bad. Don't get me wrong. It's just I just don't have time to invest in Republican Men's Club. And by the way, Rockwall County has a great Republican Men's Club. They've got a lot of really good people in them, but they also have some really outrageously liberal people who call themselves Republican in them. And I don't want to fraternize with them. I don't want to give off the wrong impression that I'm okay with these idiots who are in this fraternity, because you can't reject anybody. And they're not there. They're not there. People don't attend. And by the way, I mean, I'm going to mention a couple of names. Richard Henson. He is one of the finest men I've ever known. I'll just put it that way. His wife is the chair of Rockwall County Republican Party. But Richard, I love the guy. He's a guy of principle. He's a humble, truly humble man. And he does a Republican lunch every, I don't know, it's Wednesday or Thursday, but I've had breakfast with him, and he's like, I wish you would come to the luncheon, just to be there, just to rub elbows. And I said, Richard, if I can, I'll try to make one, but I told him, I said, there are people that go to that thing that I just can't stand being around. And he's like, well, I understand, but we got good speakers and stuff. And look, what Richard is doing is important. And I think, and I want to support what he does. And I want to support what happens, the Rockwall Republican Men's Club, I think. And I think there's a Republican Women's Club. There is. And the most active club in Rockwall County, frankly, and I think everyone would agree, is the Hispanic Club of Rockwall County. And these are people who, they are crazy active, and they do an amazing job. Now, I might attend, I have attended a couple of their events, and I would be more apt to go and join in with the Republican, Hispanic Republicans of Rockwall than I would the Republican Men's Club, primarily because the Hispanics, the Hispanics that are running the club are kind of no nonsense Republicans. They don't kiss ass. If you don't agree with the party platform and you go off and do something else, they'll call you out on it. I love that. Republican Men's Club don't do that. They want everyone to go along to get along. That's why I don't like attending those kinds of things. So I'm not this kind of organization kind of guy to begin with what's going on, but be careful who it is you sit with at these events, because you'll soon become friends with someone that you're going to start liking a lot, and then discover that they're as liberal as the day is long, and you're going to have to make a decision at some point, because they're going to run for some office, they're going to run for some position, and they're going to want your support. Not just your support, they're going to want you to help them, and you got to be able to say no. And that's another reason why I don't want to be a part of these clubs, because I don't want to become friends with people that I'm going to have to say no to down the road. All right, so that's the soapbox for today on clubs. But I digress off of. But this is the thing. These actions, combined with his choice to endorse a candidate with the beliefs contrary to the principles of the Texas Republican Party, which is crap, that is not true, has cast a shadow over the Republican Party of Texas. You want to know who's spouting off misinformation? It's these two guys who have signed this, Joaquim Hernandez and Derek Wilson. These two guys, they're the ones touting misinformation, because I don't believe what they're saying. This is a wholly political effort here. And it's ridiculous. Now, this, when the announcement was posted on social media, Rinaldi responded by stating that the whereas clauses are hilarious. My sum involvement, he says, in this race was to sign this letter and to record a 30-second video for my preferred candidate during the one event I attended by invite for 45 minutes. No texts, no communications, no negative messages about my candidate. I've seriously never seen such an unhinged temper tantrum from a winning team, because Hayden became the new chair of the National Party. Now, and I highlighted something that Current Revolt had posted about Rinaldi asking for dirt on Hayden. And so the question is that the right thing to do? Should he be doing that? Well, he's endorsing a candidate, and frankly, if he's going to endorse a candidate, then he's going to want to know what are the other things we should talk about. Now, the first thing is we have no way of knowing if that was Matt Rinaldi, because there was the way the Post read did not show that it was Matt Rinaldi. It said an M, but there was no reference to it. So I was unable to trace, was that Matt Rinaldi who said that? And if it was, he's not saying things that are untrue. He's trying to find out if there are other things that he can talk about so that he can speak the truth and not present misinformation, to prevent himself from presenting misinformation. The Black Lives Matter video is enough. It's one of those things that if Hayden had repudiated, if he had stepped back from it and said, "Hey, I was wrong," okay, then Rinaldi wouldn't have much of a ground to stand on. But he doubled down on it. He doubled down on it, is my understanding. He didn't, and he went after our chairman. So the party, the young Republicans are saying Texas Young Republicans will not be a member of the Texas Republican Party. They're not going to be partners with them until Matt Rinaldi is gone. Now, is this an organization that is led by principle or by personality? Rinaldi is the real deal. This is a guy who is standing up to elected officials during session and holding them accountable. And folks, the reason this is such a big deal is because this has never happened that I can ever recall. I can never recall a chairman of the party standing up to elected Republicans who are in office, who are in the legislature, and calling them out. Not only that, but Rinaldi is calling out the Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, who got elected and I've talked about this before. The way you get elected as Speaker of the House in Texas is you basically you sell your soul to the devil. Literally. Because the Speaker of the House is elected by the entire entire legislature, and whoever gets 50% plus one of the vote is the Speaker, just like it is in Washington, D.C. Now, think about what you saw in Washington, D.C. And by the way, I love the Liberty Caucus in Washington, D.C. I love those guys who stood up and said they didn't want Kevin McCarthy. They're not going to vote for him. And they kept Kevin McCarthy, and they went late into the night. Pat Fallon and I, this is probably the only area that Pat Fallon and I just disagree on. He doesn't want to be a part of Liberty Caucus, and I think he's ridiculous for not being part of the Liberty Caucus. I love the guy anyway. Again, I'm not going to trade the good for the perfect. I'm not going to say, if Pat Fallon's not going to be a member of Liberty Caucus, I'm not going to support him. No, that's not what I'm going to do. Pat Fallon has demonstrated by his actions in Congress that he is a true conservative. So all of you nitwits out there who are trying to get him because he's late to events or or this or that, things that have nothing to do with legislation, the way he is legislating, the way he is voting, the way he is handling himself as a member of Congress, I have no use for that. I know. And by the way, I'm going to get some of my buddies in here who hate Pat Fallon, and I'm going to let them go off. And I'm going to and we're going to have ourselves a little back and forth. I'm going to let them go off on all of the things why Pat Fallon, Congressman Fallon is evil and he's the worst thing since sliced bread. I'm going to come back with facts, and those facts are going to be on legislative, on how he's voting. How's he voting? How's he voting? All right. So if you remember, now Pat Fallon he voted with the McCarthy group. It drove me crazy, but he did. And McCarthy could not get Matt Gaetz. He couldn't get Matt Gaetz to get the Liberty Caucus off high center. And Matt finally relented, but Matt got a ton of concessions from McCarthy. And that's why you want to be a part of Liberty Caucus, because he did what because he held his ground, and he got a lot of concessions. And I talked about all those concessions on another show. I'm not going to go through all of those again, but the fact of the matter is, if McCarthy really wanted to be Speaker, or if any Republican member of the House wanted to be Speaker bad enough, all they have to do is go over to the Democrats and say, all right, guys, what do you want? If you'll give me your vote for Speaker, tell me what you want. And we'll negotiate. And then I'll get the 5 or 10 other guys, Republicans who are squishes, who have no principle. I'm going to pull them in and say, okay, they're going to give me their vote. You 5 or 10 or however many votes he needed. If you vote for me as well, I'll give you a chairmanship to each of you, to the committee of your choice. That's how it works in Texas. That's how Dade Phelan becomes Speaker. He goes to the Democrats first. His primary constituent is not the people of Beaumont. Folks, the people of Beaumont, folks of Beaumont, Texas. I happen to know just a little bit about Beaumont, Texas. After all, my name is Steinhagen. Maybe I know a little bit about Beaumont. Beaumont voters are stupid. Republican voters in Beaumont are stupid because you're unwilling to listen to what's happening to you. But what's great about the people of Beaumont, about the Republicans in Beaumont, is they're about to become educated this next election cycle. And those people who have lived in stupidity because they like Dade Phelan. Dade's a good guy. They know Dade Phelan. Oh, he's my friend. When Dade Phelan, when they start learning the facts about Dade Phelan, look, you can't fix stupid, that's for sure. But I'm hoping that it's not stupidity that is driving the voters of Beaumont. Hoping it's just ignorance. But when you sell yourself, when you look at having a relationship with an elected official as being more important and more valuable than making sure that someone who is representing you is actually representing your values, then there's a problem, right? I have told this. I've told this story before. There's somebody in my neighborhood when I moved in, and they were running. They wanted to run for city council, and one of my supporters said, "Sure, I just moved in. I didn't know anybody. Sure, I'll support you. I'll put their sign in my yard." And then later, I got a letter from the incumbent, and it turns out this incumbent was the only conservative member of our little city council. So I went and talked to him. And he made some claims. I said, I'd like to see some evidence of these claims that you're making. And he showed me all of the evidence. And so I went to my neighbor and I said, why are you running against this guy? He's the most conservative guy. He has voted right. I've actually gone into the minutes and I've read everything. I did my homework. And that person told me, well, I used to be on city council and that's my place. I'm place 3, whatever place it was. That was my place before when I was on city council for 15 years, and I want it back. And I said to them, that's not your place. That belongs to the people. And I took her sign, that person's sign, I brought it back to them, and I said, I can't support you. Now, they never forgave me. I mean, we've always been in good relationship, but every time I've run, they've made sure that they support the most liberal people running. They will not forget it, but that's what happens. you become friends with people, and then when it comes to the principles of the office, are you willing to break that relationship? Because that's what happens in politics, unfortunately, because some people are so thin-skinned they can't see beyond that, and so they hold grudges. But that's life. What's more important is that you elect people who are going to represent you. And this young Republican guy, who is the national head of Young Republicans, he's a perfect guy for the National Young Republicans because they are not a conservative group. And if I wouldn't put a penny in supporting toward that organization. If you are supporting Texas Young Republicans, then you're not a conservative. If you're supporting the National Young Republicans Federation, you are not a conservative. You are stupid. Because if you're still doing it after you've heard all of the facts, then you're stupid. And that's what I meant to say when I was talking about the people of Beaumont. There are people who have heard all of the facts and they don't care. They want to be friends with Dade Phelan. They want to keep him in office. They want to be friends with the speaker. How do I know this? Because I know Beaumont. Because I know people from Beaumont, and that's what they tell me. Oh, what? Well, but it's good for us in Beaumont to have the Speaker of the House. It's like, are you insane? But this is the way that our nation goes, and it's sickening. But we have a leader in Matt Rinaldi that is second to none. I have no problem saying that he is the greatest chair that our party has ever seen, because he calls current elected officials out. He says that what they're doing is wrong. He supports our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, and is asking a real simple question. Let's see the evidence before we bring charges against him. He's asking simple questions that those in the House who voted to impeach, that he's going into on trial on the 5th of September and before the Senate. These House members who voted for that it's shocking. And Matt Rinaldi has no problem saying these guys have just lost it. It's interesting because here in Rockwall, Justin Holland represents as our state rep, and I had mentioned Dennis London earlier. Dennis London lost his race against Justin Holland in the last election, and it took Dennis. They started the legislative session, and Dennis and a bunch of other just crazy Republicans, just all those crazy Republicans, those, you know how they are, those grassroots, the people who actually love liberty, that actually love America, that love freedom, that love limited government, those crazy people. Dennis was one of them in the gallery. And it was after they voted to give chairmanships, they voted to ignore the appeal to prohibit Democrat chairs on any committee. That was a proposal, and they just walked over that. Dade Phelan and the crew just walked over that, and Justin Holland was a part of that. And it was, I think, it was that same week that Dennis London got online and said, I'm running again against Justin Holland. He's got his truck wrapped in Dennis London campaign, his campaign slogan, all that stuff. He drives around Rockwall in that truck. I see him all the time out running for state rep to unseat Justin Holland. And some people say, well, it's an act of futility, and actually I don't believe that's true. And here's why. And here's why I think that Republicans, the Republican Party of Texas, is prepared for battle. And here's why I say that. And here's why I think that Dennis Lennon is going to be our next state rep. And here's why I think Dade Phelan will not be reelected in this next election. And that is because every year we have a state convention. Every other year we have a state convention, and this year it's going to be in Dallas. Last time it was in Houston, and the convention occurs after the primary election is over. And so what that means is we already know who the Republican candidates are by the time we get to the convention. And so what happens is at the convention, we come up with our party platform and our legislative priorities. Well, the problem is we've already chosen our elected officials. We've already chosen the Republicans who are going to represent us. Now, there's almost nothing that Democrats will support. And I started doing comparisons on political parties, and I'm going to continue doing that. By the way, I've been working on catching back up and going through some other issues within to compare the party platforms. But when you compare Democrats to Republicans, I mean, if you have any sense of principle, there's no way you could ever vote for a Democrat. I mean, just based upon the party platform. So if a Democrat comes out and says, well, I'm a Democrat, but I believe everything the Republican Party of platform says, and I'm going to stand for that, I would have to take a hard look at them if they're running up against one of these squish Republicans. I've never voted for a Democrat before, so I think that would have to be the only way that I would ever vote for a Democrat would be if that kind of thing took place. But I can't imagine that it would ever take place. I don't think a Democrat would ever do that. So by the time we're at the convention and we're putting together our party platform and we're putting together our legislative priorities, those who are in office, who are our nominees that are going to be the Republican are on the ballot, especially in safe districts like Rockwall, 70% Republican votes, 70% Republican. I think Donald Trump won Rockwall County like 76%. When you have a district like that, if you win the primary, you win the election, and that's for a lot of Texas. Well, we've had our legislative priorities, and this year for the first time, we have state legislatures like Justin Holland, who literally wagged his finger at Republicans and basically taunted the Republican grassroots and said, "You guys are irrelevant." They attacked our party chair, Matt Rinaldi. Dade Phelan attacked our party chair. They are attacking our attorney general. They're trying to impeach the guy, trying to get him out of office. Well, I think that a lot of that is going to change because this coming primary, we have a legislative priorities committee led by Julie Glover, who, by the way, is amazing, just an amazing, amazing woman. And we have some amazing grassroots organizations out there that are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they are committed to getting the word out and helping people in Beaumont, for instance, no longer be stupid and recognize, hey, folks, you're basically putting someone in office who has absolutely nothing in common with you, who is working not for you, but for the Democrats. And that is the problem, folks. So that's it for today. And I hope that you'll take notice, and I hope that you'll start taking some time to get to know what's going on in a party platform, what's going on in the party, and look at the votes of your state rep and state senator. And ask yourself, are these true conservatives? And if you have any question about that, well, then there's a lot of resources that I can get to you, and we'll be posting so that you can be in the know about what's really going on here in Texas. So it's great to see you again, and thank you again for being here. And I really do. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. It is great to be back in the saddle. Blessings to you, and we will see you next time.